Now we'll see how good you are.
No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world.
Ready to work.
Oh, wow, look at that. And it's sunny out back. So we get to watch the sunset, I guess, in relative real time. Hi, ladies, gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, friends, writers, makers, comrades. It's Monday. It's Monday again. I have very little control over what day of the week it is, but I'm so glad that you're spending some time here with me. If you don't know who I am, if this is the first time you're ever here, I'm John Adamus. I'm the writer next door, and it is my privilege and my absolute pleasure to spend some time and be in your ears and be on your screens as frequently as possible over the course of the week, every couple hours, to help you tell your story and help you write better. Whatever you're writing, however far along or however early in the process you are, no matter what it is, no matter what you want to do, I believe you should have the ability to tell your story. I think it's the most important thing in the world. So I want to help you do it. This is a good day. This is a real good day, not just because it's really sunny out, not just because I am shockingly well lit right now, but it's a really good day because yes, the rumors are true. I spent the weekend doing some extensive research, which is a really nice way of saying I sat here and watched a lot of Twitch, like a disturbing amount of watching. And I've come to two conclusions. One, I tend to over-worry about the smallest technical things to the nth degree, and I don't need to. And two, I am the only writing coach out of all the writing streams that you can find on Twitch. There are loads of writers. Let's be real clear. There are loads of writers out there, people talking about how they're doing, what they're going to do, how they're doing it. They're talking about what their next plan is. They're talking about what their next steps are. They're showing you some stuff. You can sit and join them and write on your lunch break or write for an hour, and they have little sprints and they have little this and they have little that. And they also will sell you their book. They'll do loads of stuff to engage you as one writer to another, which is admittedly fantastic. It's wonderful. It's exactly what it is you need it to be. It's great. I love it. But there's nobody out there talking business. There's nobody out there coming together to put things out to help you actually do those things. It's one thing just to talk about it. It's another thing entirely to teach you how to do it and have you do it better, and that's what I'm here for. So I am claiming right now, and you're my witness, I'm claiming the title of Twitch's writing coach. If anybody would like to come stop me, by all means, come stop me. But for now, here, you and me, I'm taking the title. There should be merch, right? It's a merch thing. There should be merch. There should be something. There should be hats or hoodies or something. We'll have to get on that next time, won't we? What I have tonight is a topic that I didn't think would be a topic. It's a thing that I didn't think I had more than about 10 minutes of words to say on it until I really sat down and got into it. Because it turns out I have quite a few number of minutes to say about quite a few number of things here. Tonight, quite happily, pleasantly. Tonight we're talking about a thing that I think a lot of people tend to only talk about in one direction, in one way, and I want to change that conversation. Tonight, we're talking about failures and mistakes with my interesting title choice. It's growing on me. But failures and mistakes tonight. And I have to tell you this. I'm going to start with some definitions. I want to talk to you about what it is and what it isn't. I want to talk to you about why it works and why it is actually one of the better tools in your toolbox and why you really shouldn't, demonize it the way we do. And then ultimately, by and large, some examples of what you can do about it. Because if the metrics on YouTube, and this is going on YouTube, the metrics of YouTube are anything to go by, it's been 7 minutes, and historically 90-something% of all the people have bailed by now. So here we are, you and me, having a nice conversation about failure and mistakes. And we're going to start with those definitions. So let's define mistakes. Seems pretty straightforward. If you were asked, hey, how do you define mistake? You'd probably give a pretty straightforward thing. It's an error. It's a thing you got wrong. It's a problem. Maybe you'd push a little bit and say, oh, well, it's a thing that needs to be corrected. But by and large, you'd be in the ballpark. You'd have something to say. You'd know what it is that you're supposed to be getting across. You'd know what it is you're supposed to be thinking about when I say mistake. I'm apologizing. There's a slight little there we go. It was just taking forever. Anywho, here we are. The mistake is an error. You're right. It's an error. It's a thing. It's a problem. It's a little hiccup that when caught, when detected, and when dealt with, does not inhibit you from getting done the thing you were already doing. A mistake is a small stumbling point. It's tiny. Let me give you some examples. You're making dinner. You read the recipe, and it says 2 teaspoons of seasoning. You put in 1. You catch yourself. You stop and go, oh my God, I got to put another teaspoon into this. Should be pretty straightforward. That's a mistake. Simple. Here's another example. You're talking to someone. You haven't seen them in a while. Hey, buddy, you remember that time we did that thing at that place and I had that French toast and you had the waffles? And they say, no, John, no. I didn't have the waffle. I had pancakes. That incorrect memory, a mistake. Third thing, maybe this has happened to you. Third thing. You're writing. You're going along. You're crafting whatever scene it is. Could be an action scene. Could be dialogue. Could be exposition. Who knows? You're writing. It's going great. And you decide, hey, in the middle of the sentence, I'm going to put a comma. I'm going to put a comma right here. This seems like a good home for a comma. If I were reading it out loud, if I were following this along, I'd want to pause here. I know commas are pauses. I'm going to put a comma right here. So you do. You put a comma right there. But not where the comma goes. Not the best spot. It's fine. I mean, it's a comma. It's not the end of the world. But it doesn't go there. It's a mistake. It's an error. It's a problem. All of those things are mistakes. They're easily fixable. You don't look at those problems, pancakes over waffles, commas in the wrong spot, 1 too few teaspoons in a thing. You don't look at that and suddenly, throw yourself to the sea below. You don't get thee to a nunnery. You don't collide your life into traffic. You just fix it. But why is it? Why exactly is it that when we talk about creativity, when we talk about making things, when we talk about doing things, the minute we make a mistake with our writing, the minute we make a mistake in our planning, the minute we make a mistake in how we do whatever it is we do, we immediately think, oh, no, I've made a mistake. This is awful. I must give up. If we apply that same logic to our 3 previous examples, here's what happens. 1, oh no, I didn't put the correct number of teaspoons of seasoning in this meal. Not only am I not going to eat this meal, I'm never going to eat dinner again. 2, oh no, I thought you had a waffle. You really had pancakes. Not only will I never be your friend, I will never communicate with another person again, no matter what, no matter who. Third thing, a comma. Oh no. Oh no, there's a comma in the wrong spot. Holy shit. I can never write a book. I will never be published. I will never put my art into the world. I will never use my voice for expression. There's a comma in the wrong spot. Do you see? You see how weird that is? You didn't give up dinner forever because you didn't put enough Italian seasoning in there. Hello, everyone. Hi. Yes, it's an excellent spot to come in. It's so good to see all of you. Hello, hello, hello. You don't give up dinner. You don't give up, writing forever. You don't give up communicating with another person because you forgot that your friend Paul had pancakes. But why do we do that with writing? Why do we look at one mistake? Why do we look at one thing and go, oh my God, it's not right? Why do we do that? Well, we'll talk about why we do that. There's a reason why we do that. Hint, it rhymes with patriarchy and slapitalism. But for now, just put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. The important point, the thing here, the little wrinkly bit, is that a mistake does not deter you from the end goal you were already on. It's a mistake. You're still going to eat dinner. You're still going to communicate with people. You're still going to tell that story about pancakes and waffles, only now you're going to get it right. You're still going to put commas where commas need to go, and sometimes you're going to do it wrong. Everybody, no matter what you're doing, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody. Mistakes happen. Every mistake has some kind of fix to it. There might be huge mistakes. Admittedly, you might have big, giant, radical issues. Big, giant things. And I'm not talking like commas. I'm talking like life-altering things that might have been predicated on or caused by or generated with mistakes. And the solutions to those things, handling those things, managing those things might not be like your favorite thing to do. And it might not be the solution that's the neatest or the quickest or the cleanest or the simplest. But by and large, there's always some kind of solution to a mistake. You might just not like it for what it is. But every mistake has a solution. That's a really important point. Put a gold star by that. We're going to come back to that later. Now, oh, hey, look. The timer worked. That's a small note more for me than for you. But if you're watching this, thanks. The important thing here with mistakes is that we have found ourselves in a system. We have found ourselves in a creative atmosphere where, for some reason, we tend to tally up mistakes. We tend to track them like rings on a tree or pennies in a jar at the fair. We tend to want to accumulate these things and rank them and try and figure out where we rank compared to others as a result. I don't know why we do this. We don't come out swinging creatively thinking about this. But all of a sudden, when you're talking to somebody and you go, hey, how's that going? Oh, well, I'm having a hard time. I got all these things to do. I got 15 problems. And you think to yourself, oh, 15 problems, you say. 15. Well, I only have 6. I must be better than that person with their 15. And there's no, reason to think that. That's not a thing. But we are always wired and pushed to look for hierarchy, to look for organization, to figure out where we rank, to figure out who's better than us and who we're better than. And tracking mistakes is apparently one of the ways creatively we keep score. It's one of the least fruitful ways to keep score because there's no point to keeping score, is what I'm saying. We don't need to keep score, but we track our mistakes. And for every mistake, it's like we're deducting something. We're taking a surcharge from some account where the lower this balance gets, the less good we are. We've somehow found a way to tie our personal quality and goodness with our number of errors in a draft. As if, oh my God, all those commas, every single one that's a comma splice or a run-on sentence, or it's just in the wrong spot, or it's just not doing the thing you mean it to do. Every time you do that, we're somehow making you less of a person. Have you ever stopped and thought about that for a second? We are suggesting, the climate of creativity is suggesting that if you keep messing up in your draft, a draft, not the finished book, a draft, the working area you're in, the not done yet stuff, every mistake you're making in the not done yet, I'm figuring it out as I go space, every time you screw it up, you are less human and somehow less qualified to continue. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why is that just the accepted practice? That's kind of a dumb practice. You are not... Where's my close-up camera? Right here. Right here. You are not less of a person because you make a couple comma splices. The mistakes you make in your draft do not reduce your level of humanity. Are we clear? Like, that makes sense to you? The thing I'm trying to say, the point I'm trying to make very simply is this. You're going to make a ton of mistakes. You're going to. You have to. You've never done these things before. And even when you've done them multiple times, you've never done them this way, whatever this book is. That's fine. Mistakes are everywhere. There is no perfect. There's never going to be perfect. There wasn't perfect last week. It wasn't like everybody else got their slice of perfect and you get nothing. There's no perfect. Nada. Zero. Zip. No perfect. The cameras are getting fancier. Yeah, I know. We're just wait. There's going to be more fancy later. But the perfect, there isn't any. It's normal now, but sounded far away on close-up. We will address that. I promise you I will address it. I'm pretty sure it's not set to the right mic. Apologies. I don't want to pause, but I got to pause because that's going to bug me now. You're fine. Just hang on. When I went to the close-up, this close-up? Oh, yeah. I got you. It should be fixed now. It's because I moved my head and the other mic picked me up. It's fine. We got it. We're cool. So, yeah, it's this mic is really focused right here. So when I move my head, one of the reasons I want to go wireless is so that I can move my head everywhere, but that's neither here nor there. That's a different thing for a different day. I'm going back on track now. So here we are, doing what we're doing. Perfect. We all chase it. I don't know why we chase it. Have you seen perfect? Have you ever seen perfect? I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of streams. I look at a lot of people. I compare this to a lot of stuff. I compare all the time because I'm trying to find myself in the rank. I'm trying to find my priority. I'm trying to find where I sit. And yeah, there are some people who shoot these things on $10,000 cameras. Multiple $10,000 cameras. Not just fancy camera tricks like I use, but legit different cameras with legit different microphones and big-ass lights. And they're pretty good, but they're still not perfect. Because, well, I would do things differently. Because what they do, they would do differently. They'd have different lights going on. They'd have this, they'd have that. Loads of different things you could do to do different. And that doesn't mean they're perfect and you're not. Because mistakes don't have to stop you. They're just mistakes. Remember, it's that extra teaspoon of seasoning in dinner. You're not going to give up meals forever. It's just that remembered conversation. You get corrected. You move on. And mistakes' presence doesn't deter you from reaching the goal you were trying. It's just a thing to correct along the way. Does that make sense? Is that reasonable? Somewhere along the way, somehow, I don't know when. I got a pretty good idea when. But at some point, like, we figured out that the books we idolize and the authors we idolize have to be perfect because we idolize them. Because they're out there, they're for sale, they're in these big ass boxes, we can buy them. But I need you to know that all those people making all those things didn't do so alone. A lot of the authors we refer to by solely their last name and some kind of great badge of honor, well, they have a team of people, usually multiple editors at multiple levels throughout their whole process. They have writing coaches, they have writing psychologists, they have therapists, they have a copy editor, they have a writing developmental editor, they have a publisher, they have publishers' assistants, they have an actual assistant, they have loads of humans between them and their draft and the finished available for purchase at $19.95 endpoint. And even then, it's not perfect. Because every single person in that chain, every single person who puts their eyes and their hands and their brain to that manuscript, they're human. They're imperfect to begin with. They might miss a thing. They might leave that comma in. They might not catch that, oh, there's a slight variation in the narration here. Oh, it's a contradiction. It's this, it's a that. They might not know those things and they might not care about those things and they leave them in. But if we are looking at it technically, if we are looking at it thoroughly, if we are looking at it intensely, mistakes fall through the cracks. It happens. But mistakes do not deter us from our goal. Because chasing perfect should not be our goal. Our goal, plain and simple, should be to use our brain, use our guts, use our soul to put our voice into the world and produce art. That's our goal. Let it be imperfect. When you buy art, I don't know if you've ever tried to buy a painting, but you're not buying a painting because it is pristine and exact. You're buying it because you can see the brush strokes. You're buying it because you can see how somebody sketched a thing onto paper. You can see the human in the work. That's imperfect by design. So when you get on your own case about your mistakes, when you hammer at yourself over and over and over again, oh man, I didn't do so good. Oh, this is a problem. Oh, this sucks. I suck. Do you? Really? Is that a thing? Like, do you? Or did you just make a couple mistakes? It doesn't erode your humanity. It isn't evidence that you should give up publishing. It doesn't mean you're, forever damned. It's not a scarlet letter to be seared upon your clothing. It's just a comma. It's just a passive voice thing. It's just a sentence fragment. It's a typo. It's a unclear sentence. It's a whatever it is. And even if you have 1 million of them, and it's not hard to get into the high number counts if your manuscript's big enough, but even if you have 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, whatever errors of whatever kind, that's not evidence you should quit. It just means you have 50,000 things to do. Because each of these things, even if it's all commas, each of these things is disconnected from the other. Because that comma splice in the 11th sentence on page 7 is the only comma splice in the 11th line on page 7. Because the next thing is on line 12 on page 7. And so on and so forth. Each problem is singular and can be addressed singularly. One after the other, after the other, after the other. Mistakes happen. How we choose to embrace and pivot from and deal with them says a lot about our long-term planning ability. How we're going to get the idea out. We have to be able to weather mistakes and put aside the idea that things need to be perfect. Nobody at any level of publishing, traditional, self-publishing, hybrid publishing, your agent/pimp, your publisher, your marketing department, your consumer, Nobody wants a perfect, flawless book. They want a book, they want a story, they want a thing they can imagine, they can feel, something that moves them. And that means they want a human connection from you to them through the vehicle of your book. Your book is building a bridge from one human to the next. And that bridge is laid hand by hand, sentence by sentence, line by line, thing by thing, brick by brick. And it's okay if it's not exactly machine perfect. Make a human connection, and you'll do just fine. That's a really important point. I really cannot stress clearly enough, frequently enough, how important it is to think about these things not in terms of failure, not in terms of grotesque ruination, but instead to just highlight, hey, you didn't do this right. Go fix it. Because there are a lot of people, there's loads of people who will sit and just bludgeon themselves. Well, I got this thing wrong and I got that thing wrong. And oh my God, look at all the red on this, like we're back in school or something. Oh my God, look at all the highlights. Look at all the notes. Look at all of this. Look at all of that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens. You turn your book over to an editor, to a coach, to a publisher, to an agent, to someone else. You're going to get feedback. Some of that might be positive. Some of that might be negative. One might vastly outnumber the other. But at no point does any quantity of either positive or negative mean that you should just give up. That's not the end result of finding mistakes. The end result of finding mistakes is, okay, I need to learn how to not make these errors. Somebody help me. That's a big deal. Because, and I don't know how to say this without being a little indelicate, but if you're unwilling to ask for help, you are tying your hands together and screwing yourself over when it comes to moving forward creatively. Look, you made these mistakes because you just didn't know how to do a thing. It doesn't matter what that thing is. Whether it was, I didn't know how a semicolon works. I thought it worked like this. It works like that. It doesn't matter. Hey, I'm always happy to have babies come and watch things. That's fantastic. By all means, bring your kids. Bring your pets. Summon spouses, partners, and friends. I'm trying to grow this audience. You can bring all the babies you want. If they have questions, ask away, babies. I'd be very happy to answer basic fundamental writing questions for small humans with developing brains. You don't have to apologize for it either. It's totally fine. Mistakes aren't damnation. They're not. They're not going to be damnation. They're not going to be damnation tomorrow. They weren't damnation yesterday. They're just mistakes. They're things you can fix. They're things you can do. They're opportunities. Now, they might be unpleasant opportunities. You might get sick and tired of finding out that I have found all 62 different ways commas don't work, and I have yet to really figure out how commas do work. Yeah, that's crazy frustrating. Believe me, I know. I get it. It's hugely irritating. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you got to give up. Mistakes are mistakes. You fix them. If you're in a situation, though, where you don't have some resource you can turn to actually help you with the mistake, like, you know you're making this problem, you don't really know how to fix it, you jump out onto the internet for whatever reason, and you get the same sort of help that spawned the problem in the first place. They hand you the same articles that you just Googled. They tell you the same canned, unexplainable advice that you just said to yourself before. If you don't have the right resource to help, you're going to keep making the mistake. You have to put yourself into a situation or surround yourself with people who can facilitate you no longer making those mistakes. But it is still up to you to do something about fixing the mistake. You know, it's that whole, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make him drink kind of a thing. You can have somebody explain to you, like, hey, this is how this grammar things work. This is how you write this scene. This is how you craft this character. But then you still have to sit down and put your own fingers to your own keys and produce your own idea. That's important. But those are just mistakes. And that's half of the thing I wanted to define before we even move forward. Here's the other half of the thing I wanted to define. Failure. Failure, and I wrote this down, so bear with me while I lean for a minute. Why did I put the light all the way over there? I don't know. Failure. Failure is the end. Ooh, good, that light picked up. How nice. Failure is, that's not bad. Failure is a series of attempts that did not accomplish a given goal. That's it. I'm going to turn that light down a little bit. It's a little bright. There we go. Failure is a series of attempts that did not work, that did not accomplish their goal. If you try to do a thing over and over and over and it doesn't get where you want to go, you failed. Again, that doesn't mean you give up forever. At no point in this do I want you thinking, oh, I failed. I need to give up forever. That's not it. That's not a thing. That's not how this goes. The point I'm making is failure's just a noun. Well, it's a verb in some cases. You failed. Failure. It happens. As I have said in I don't know how many streams and how many recordings at this point, I think nearly all of them to some degree. What matters more is not that you failed. What matters more is what you do after you fail. If you walked away right now, oh man, if I failed, this sucks. I suck. I'm not going to do it again. How committed were you to accomplishing whatever goal that is? Oh man, I didn't get published. Oh, I got a rejection letter. I'm not going to write. That's part of this job. That's the way this business works. You are going to face rejection. You are going to face people giving you 1 and 2 stars and vague ass reviews. You are going to have moments where your sales are not, astronomical. You are going to have moments where you want to be talking or doing or something to like legions of people, and you end up talking to like 2. That's just how this goes. If you stay stuck, if you stay defined, if you stay limited to the idea that the only good thing, the only way this is right is to hit this one arbitrary point, it's only good if I talk to 10 people. It's only okay if I sell 100 copies in my first 10 hours. It's only okay. It's only right. It's only going to be good enough because of that, because of this, because of that condition over there. You are going to make it really hard to do that thing. Really, really hard. It just doesn't do that. That's not a thing. Don't tie your hands together without good reason. It won't help you. Failure is just a decision, a judgment made about a series of activities. Now, we often talk about failure when we're not demonizing it, by the way. Oh my God, failure is the end of existence. Failure is the worst thing ever. Failing is bad. Failing in school is disastrous. Why? Because school needs you to pass, because that's everything hangs on your ability to pass geometry. Everything, literally the rest of your life matters as to whether or not in the 4th test of your history class you passed. It doesn't, but that's what we sell you. That's the idea. Rejection letters are somehow evidence of absolute, inability to write. No, That's not a thing. That's not how this works. If anything, a rejection of a query letter is evidence you don't know how to write a query letter. But hang on. Wait a minute. Hold up. There's that other side of the failure argument, right? You can jump on inspirational Twitter and fitness Twitter and business Twitter and all these different kind of resources, and you'll hear that really hack, dry shit about, oh well, you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You'll blah 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 blah, and yeah, that's true. You will not get the end result you want if you don't attempt to do the thing in the first place. That's true. But what they're missing in all that sports metaphor, what they're missing in all that talk about, hey, I'm collecting rejection letters. I'm great. I'm just racking up a whole pile of them. What everybody's missing in all that is that if mechanically it's unsound, like you wrote a bad query letter, the reason why you're failing is because you don't know how to write a query letter. And the point isn't, oh, well, I just have to wait for the right person because it only takes just one. Yeah, if you keep doing the same thing badly over and over and over, eventually somewhere, somebody in some quantum universe will say yes to your bad query. But it will not improve when you go write the next query. You will not have learned how to get better at it, and you'll be waiting around for one more person and one more multiverse to sit there and go, well, yeah, I guess I got to do it. When you could have fixed this. Your rejections are not tremendous badges of honor either. Don't swing it the other way and delude yourself. A rejection's a rejection. It's evidence you didn't know how to do the thing. You made a mistake. You can argue it's a failure, but it's temporary. The point I'm trying to make is you can ask for help. Like, if you need help at whatever, get help. Why am I crooked in this camera? Oh, right, because I moved. Hang on. Nope. Sorry. That's what I get for having a cat, like, right here. Anyway. Yeah, I'm talking about you. You can ask for help. The reason why your query isn't working is not because you're just waiting for the right person. It's you're waiting for the right person and possibly theoretically your query's not very good. You can fix it. You can learn how to get better at it. You can query better. It's okay. It's, not a problem. Just fix your mistake. Failure is not an end state. Failure is not the end of anything unless you choose it to be. And racking up rung after rung, pile after pile of faults and failings and errors does not somehow prove you're doing anything other than failing. Yeah. Let's be fair. It does mean in some way you're trying because you've got all these attempts. But if you're not getting the end result you want, maybe it's time to look not at the idea that you're attempting at all, but look instead at how you're attempting it. Maybe you got to try something different. That's significant. That is a really important point. That's an idea worth thinking about. It's not bad or wrong, and you're not a bad person, and you're not writing an automatically shitty book if you got rejected. First of all, if your query just flat out got rejected, they didn't read your book. They just assumed that if the query was like this, the manuscript's like that, out it goes. And that's not fair, I know, but that's how this works. But if you write a better engaging query, you can't always automatically guarantee everybody's going to say yes, but you can certainly improve your odds. You can do better. It's to your advantage to do better. But again, mistakes and failure need to be self-defined, not group-defined. Because if you jump on Twitter, if you jump on Instagram, if you run around on Book Talk, you will find people who want to grab and gravitate to the fact that you failed, that you made a mistake, that you made an error, that this is a problem, that that's a problem, and suddenly use it to create some kind of idea that you shouldn't be doing anything in the first place. As if the only way you can get the career you want, the life you want, is to be flawless. And that's not true. That's not true at all. It wasn't true last week. It's not true today. It's not going to be true next week. Because really what that says, really, truly what that means is you can't get love without being perfect. Now, I know. We've suddenly jumped several sharks here. All of a sudden, I'm talking about love, and here's what I mean. You're a human being creating art for other people's benefit, right? The whole function of that art, the whole reason we produce things is because we want recognition, or we want attention, or we want praise, or we want validation. We want to connect with another person. We want to be loved and love others in return. We want to feel some kind of experience so that we're not alone. We want to find our place. We want to find our family. We want to find the ways we connect to one another. We do that through our art. We do that through expression. If we produce these things and no one notices, if we produce these things and nothing happens, if we produce these things and, it seems like we're a tree falling in the forest and there's no one around, it can be a very easy thing, a quick thing, a simple thing to say, oh, well, I must be a bad person. I must be not worth it. I'm not worth paying attention to. I'm not worth loving. Which is wrong. You're always worth loving. You're you. But by and large, people will take this sense of failure and mistake and this demand for perfection and turn around and use it to create some kind of atmosphere where the only acceptable thing is a zero tolerance policy of mistake and failure. Now, I don't know if that's something you learned or if that's something somebody drummed into you or if it's something you assumed you had to do because you wanted to make sure that you had to be better than the other people. But it's all horseshit. It's all wrong. You just need to be you, and you just need to tell your story, and then you just need some tools to tell that story the best way you can. And hopefully over time, by working on your story more and more, by shaping things more and more and better, you'll get better at doing it. You'll get better results as you do it. It's a practice. It's a habit. It's a skill. You develop it. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Where I want to go from here, what I want to do from here, is now kind of address a few of the common mistakes / things people fail, and then the things that lead therefore to people bailing out of writing or giving up or walking away or anything like that, and really point out one or two kind of straightforward solutions for each, so that you don't get this sense that just, oh God, everything's doomed and bad and terrible. Because it's not. Because as we talked about 43 minutes ago, every mistake has a solution. We can fix these things. We can do better with these things. Sound good? Sound fair? Sound right? Okay. I'm going to move the camera. So I'm going to go back to the title screen for a second so I can do this. I know, it's very technical. This is why having a second camera would just be great. And now we're back here on the main. Oh my God, there we are. Wow, that's really zoomed out. Why am I so zoomed out? There we go. All right. I've got my list. Let's go through a few of these things. Okay? This is straightforward stuff. You can handle this. You can do this. I believe in you. This is not going to be, really outside the realm of possibility. So I've got a pile of things here that are really common mistakes. I want to give you a couple solutions. I want to equip you to do better. This is really what I've started calling episode 1 of the Writers Toolbox, which is sort of a space where we're going to address issues and problems and give you a specific tool for each of them. So tonight, we're going to give you a couple basic tools because every toolbox starts with a sort of a starter set. I think that's a nice way of handling it. So I've got my list. Here we go. Item number 1. Toolbox series. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that as a title, frankly. I like it. Ready? Here we go. Hey! Thank you so much for cheering. I really appreciate that. That's fantastic. Here we go. Basic grammar. And by this I mean just the conjugation of verbs and the understanding of just general structure and punctuation. Commas, em dashes, semicolons, parentheses. I'm lumping all that in with grammar. It's the facility we have with language. Here's the fix. If it's an early draft, draft 1 especially, even into draft 2, and nobody else has really seen it, make all the mistakes you want. Get it all out there. Let it be bad on the page. It's important. Let it be just ugly on the page. Make all the notes you want in the margin that you'll fix it later. Make all the notes you want later to ask somebody for help. But for now, in the early stages, just let the grammar be just a nightmare. And it's going to do fine. Because chances are, it's not as bad as you think. And the number of problems you're doing over and over are the same problems, just repeated. So learning how to manage them can simplify you down the road. Grammar. Fixable. You can study grammar. You can read people's writing. You can look at other books in your genre, out of your genre. You can read, damn near anything on the internet within reason and see how other people manipulate language for good or for ill. But you can see the implementation of language and structure and get a sense of like, oh, I don't see them putting so many commas before so many ands. Oh, maybe I'll try not to do that so much. Or you'll see something like, I don't see a lot of parentheses in my third person book. Cool. Maybe I'll try to use them less. There's a real point here I'm trying to make. Grammar is malleable, absolutely, and to really drill down and panic and hang out on grammar and be all like, it's got to be this way, it needs to be this way. That's just really classist and just screams like old-fashioned stuffy privilege, which is something frankly worth examining. But yeah, it's not about understanding the rules and then carving them in stone and then absolutely like sitting down and figuring out how to bend your work to the grammar rules. If you're able to, here's the publishing note, okay? Here's your tool for the toolbox. If you are able to demonstrate basic fluency with grammar, like 80-something percent, 85% of the time, you get it right, you follow the rule. You might not be able to quote the rule. No one cares if you can quote the rule. But if you get it right like 80-85% of the time, 90 would be better, but we can take 85, it's okay. If you're able to get it right at 85% of the time, you got some latitude. You can experiment, you can fuck around and find out. It's okay. It's all right. Grammar is adaptable. I want to use the word fungible, but I never know if I'm using that word correctly. So instead, let's just say grammar is a pile of Legos and we can use it to assemble definitely what's in the instructions, or we can improvise and build lots of different things. Grammar is a tool in our toolbox. Understanding how we use that tool opens doors and makes other things possible. That's part number 1. Part number 2, we're going to attack the story triangle. All right? Hang on. So I stop looking at the monitor. Come over here a little bit. There you go. We're going to attack the story triangle. If you've never heard me talk about the story triangle, it's this. Character plus plot plus world building forms a triangle. Character, plot, world building makes a triangle. All right? Most common problem. most common problem with characters is that they lack depth. They're just beings who have like abilities that are story convenient. You have a story about somebody who needs to drive a car real fast, and the only thing you've said this one character can do is drive fast. There's nothing else really to the character. They don't have a great sense of connection with other people. They don't seem to be people. They just seem to be the being who can physically do the task of driving fast. When a character lacks depth, the two tools you can use right off the bat to fix these things, to correct your mistakes. One, take a look at how you're building your character. Did we give them skills? Multiple skills of varying caliber? Some things they're great at, some things they're less good at, some things they're not good at. Okay? Did we give them fears and wants and needs? You know, the way the human reader would? Do they have plans? Do they have ambitions? Do they have losses and pains and sufferings and goals and hopes and that sort of nebulous stuff that makes people people? Did we give them a moral code, a set of rules they live by? Even if you never sit down and tell the reader, hey, reader, item number 1 on my moral code is this, and item number 3 is that. You never have to spell it out. Let the characters' actions, let the characters' dialogue, let the characters' silence and movement and responses and consequences, let that shape the reader's understanding of their moral code. Yeah, sure, you can have a character say, you know, I can't believe this happens. I don't like it when, you know, little old ladies aren't escorted across the street. Sure, you can express that if you want, but you don't have to do that for literally every point. But giving a character a moral code, a set of guidelines to follow, gives the story some kind of spine, because now all of a sudden, instead of just having your perfect character act perfectly to perfectly do the perfect plot, now your character has some boundaries. Now your character's, nobody calls me chicken. Exactly. It's an excellent point. You don't have to sit there and go, I have a rule that says I am not allowed to back down in the face of cowardice. You summarize it with, nobody calls me chicken. Because that sounds more like how a human being would speak. But the idea is that you can fix any character, give them much needed depth by giving them a moral code, by giving them skills, by giving them fears and hopes and dreams and plans. Even if they don't come to fruition in this book, you can give them these things. Just like my hopes, dreams, and plans are not coming to fruition in this stream. Because a lot of my hopes, dreams, and plans do not involve this stream. They involve people and things in other rooms and other places at other times. That's just how it is. The other significant character problem that is fixable, and fixable pretty quickly, is that you don't challenge your characters in the story. Like, they're just too good at what they do, and what they need to do, what the plot is so simple that they don't really have to work too hard. They just have to accomplish a few tasks. It might take time. There might be a long list of tasks they have to do, but it doesn't really mean like it's hard for them. You know, I'm not asking the toddler to perform open heart surgery or something. I'm not looking to disproportionately like send the new kid on the block to go fight Cthulhu with a spitball. I'm not looking to so grossly where's the bottom of my frame? Grossly outdo the power dynamic here. But you do have to put your characters in situations where they're challenged, so that they have to make an effort, so that there's a chance they could fail, that there's a chance that things won't go their way right away. This allows a reader who in their own life fails at things. They forget that they had pancakes, not waffles. They forget to put that extra teaspoon of seasoning in. They forget, hey, that's not how commas work. The reader has that. They're looking for that same sort of thing in characters. The escapism everybody talks about does not come from seeing perfect characters behaving perfectly. The escapism comes from a character somebody can relate to being put in a situation that, although fantastic and fictive, bears some kind of relationship to how a reader is feeling and doing. So you might have your fantasy kingdom with your fantasy knight on their noble quest. And that might be well outside the realm of your reader, who sits in an apartment and worries about how they're going to feed themselves. But that sense of pressure and frustration that the knight feels on their quest should, in some way, connect with that reader who's worried about how they're going to pay their bills. Find those bridges, because your job is to use your medium to just build bridges. And giving your characters some depth and giving them some challenge, where they don't know everything right away, where they don't remember with perfect clarity the exact thing they need. Doing that gives a reader a chance to root for the character's success, which is immediately going to connect them better. And they'll follow the story, and they'll want to know what happens next, and they'll keep turning those pages. Do not sleep on unchallenged characters. Do something with them. It makes a difference. All right. Let's pivot for a minute. I'm going to move the camera back. Let's go talk about some plot stuff. A lot of problems when it comes to plot. I'm not going back to the title sequence. You're just going to have to deal with me moving things. Again, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier when I put this thing on like a big boom pole over here. Okay. Give myself a little bit of brightness. It's now become dark, so a moment, please. There we go. All right. Plot things. Most common plot problem, much like an unchallenged character, your most common plot problem is that your plot is just boring. It's too simple, and it's too straightforward, and it's over too quickly. And then there's still that rest of the book where everybody's just kind of like waiting for a bus, wondering what the hell to do. That's not great. We don't want a plot that is necessarily too simplistic. Now, that does not mean, just to be clear, that doesn't mean you need to create these like enormous, hyper complicated, like 45-step Rube Goldberg plots. Oh, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then that's going to happen, then this and this and this and then this. Because the more things you stack up in order to develop your plot, the more convenience you're requiring in the story. If we look at something like a Bond villain or the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises, those are always your two more recent examples. There's so much coincidence and so much convenience in that story. Oh, well, the bus had to go exactly that way. It had to work exactly like this. He had to stand exactly there. The water had to move exactly like this. The light has to... The minute any one thing, any one domino topples just slightly out of place, the rest of everything is ruined. You don't need to do that when you're making your plot. You also don't need a plot that goes entirely the other way, where all of a sudden your plot is just basically the equivalent of like a long walk across the street. You don't want hyper simple, and you don't want hyper complex. What you want instead, fairly in a straightforward way, is a mix of challenges and successes and a conflict that your character is well suited to resolve. Now, they're going to be well suited to resolve that because of their skills, because of who they are as a person, their moral code. But by and large, that conflict is somewhat built for them. Not exactly. I'm not talking like, you are the person of prophecy and you're the only... like. Fine. If that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But you need a plot that's able to sustain successes and misses and consequences and danger and risk, right alongside the elements of the plot that are just... super simple. I barely broke a sweat. Let's do one more plot thing. Next plot thing, as I click on my notes real quick. Next plot thing. The plot takes forever. Whether it's complicated or not, it just takes forever. And what that suggests is that you have not necessarily overplanned. In fact, the opposite is true. You have underplanned and then stretched out all these details in order to make them fit some arbitrary size that you had to fit. Now, one of the ways you solve that is by putting more stuff in your plot, creating some B plots, laying things out differently. There's loads of different ways to resolve or handle that issue. It's a planning issue at that point. The other thing to do on a more granular level, a more intimate level, a more basic level, depending on how you want to say it, is look at the things your characters are doing and ask yourself why it takes the amount of time it takes. Why is the investigating for clues in your mystery 3 paragraphs? But then the confrontation scene about that clue is 5 pages. Why are things structured the way you've structured them? And is that structure the best way you knew how to do it? Are there other ways? Could we get more out of things? Do we want to build tension or collapse tension? I guess I should gesture up here. Do we want to build tension or collapse tension? All of these manipulations, all of these things really make a difference. The idea being fundamentally that when it comes to plot, plot is conflict, plot is risk, and plot is an unknown. We don't know as we read our story whether or not our character is going to be able to really handle this. It seems just hard enough that they have to break a little bit of a sweat, just complicated enough that they have to keep doing things. So we keep reading to see what happens. We keep reading to see how things go. This is important. This is a big deal. Again, it's fixable on a scene level. To fix a character issue, you look at the sentences and paragraphs you've dedicated to developing the character. To fix a plot issue, you go look at your scene construction. Because how a scene fits into the plot, or the B plot, or the background, or the this or the that. You're really getting a sense of whether or not this scene matters. Now, I'm not saying, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that every scene in your story has to solely and only be the A plot. It's not main plot or bust. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if a scene's showing up in the manuscript, it better be something. It better be doing something. Advancing the main plot, advancing a character arc, advancing a subplot, teaching us something about the world we didn't already know. If it's not doing any of those 4 things, why is this scene in the book? That's a significant point. Like, I don't know how else to really make that clearer to you as I slowly zoom out a little bit. But like, that's an important element. You have to know when and where and how and why this scene is in the position it's in and what it's doing. Because otherwise it can go. Otherwise it can be cut. And maybe that will fix the plot by tightening it up. Maybe that will pare down the clutter and the detours. Who knows? I don't know. It depends on what you're writing. It depends on how it's written. But it's a fixable thing. Next, world building. Oh, world building. Now, hang on. I'm going to move in the chair a minute. We're just going to come up here like this. Because the cat jumped off of me, so we have some room to move. Look, I don't know. Where's my eye line? I don't know what exactly happened. Well, that's not really true. I know precisely what happened. To make everybody want to world build like it's going out of style. I blame the resurgence in Tolkien-esque complexity. Because the number one problem with world building is either there's way too much of it or there's barely any. Now, this happens one way or the other, one extreme or the other, for the same reason each time. It's because the writer doesn't know how to appreciate world building. They don't know what to do with it. They think it's got to be this thing, this momentous thing that's evidence of their creation and their effort. And if they don't do it right, it's a problem and everything's bad. So they either throw it all out there and whatever happens is whatever happens, and whatever it is, or they pull it way back because they didn't really want to mess with it in the first place. World building, most problems with world building are about misunderstanding what it is it does in a scene. The function of world building in a scene is to help set the stage, help describe the room, help figure out where the beings, the people in the scene are doing whatever they're doing and how they're doing it and what's happening as a result. The world building detail isn't just, the color of the room or the darkness outside or where the light is behind me or the wall you can't see or the messiness of the desk. It's all those things, but it's also the rustle of paper just beneath the microphone, or it's the way I keep getting distracted by my phone, so I'm going to put it over here. It's all those details that aren't character and aren't plot that help paint a most effective scene. If you ever want to practice getting better at your world building, you have one of the best world building devices probably in your pocket, and that's your phone. Here's what you do. Walk into any room in your home, or really anywhere, and take a photo. Just a photo. Not a selfie, but a photo of the room. Okay? Just however it is. Messy, tidy, neat, spotless, dirty, whatever it is. You're not going to show this photo to anybody. It's just for you. But you've got this photo. Now, go to your writing space. Go sit down and do whatever you're going to do. What scene would you put in that room based on how it looks in that photo? And how would you write that scene and describe that room to somebody who's never seen the photo you just took on your phone? What words would you use? In what order? What way? In what sentences? How would you get this across? What would you do? That's exactly what we're talking about. That's how you develop stronger, clearer, sharper, more precise world building details. We don't want to get into the history of, whatever sweatshop labor manufactured my drapes. That's unfortunate and criminalized, and I'm fairly certain whoever, ran the sweatshop should be dragged out into the town square and dealt with en masse. But it's also not germane to what we're talking about. It doesn't matter who slaved over my drapes. What matters is that the drapes are closed and they're preventing the blaring light from my neighbor's television set coming in here and discoloring my face more than it already is. The world building details you choose are purposeful, just like the absence of things you describe also is purposeful. But you're not going to get to that point, and it's not going to get easier for you until you figure out why you're putting these details in this place you're at. Same thing we talked about before. Why is this thing you wrote, why is this thing in the place that it is to the degree that it is? Why? What are you trying to say? Why couldn't you have told me this a paragraph ago or a page later from now? What are you doing? Fixing world building does not usually mean, oh my God, every paragraph has to have one extra detail. That's how we used to teach children. I don't want you to do that. Unless you're a child. Unless, for some reason, like I'm speaking to an elementary class. And if I am, you're up really, really late. And please know that I fucking swear all the time. And it's probably best that you don't, do that in class. A lot of teachers get very upset with, everything. A moment, please. Okay, fair enough. The baby's not that old. That's fine. I'll fucking swear in front of a young baby. It's fine. It's good. One day I will corrupt the babies. It's just a matter of time. There's your story triangle, your plot, your character, and your world. We're barreling through here. I've noticed one of the things that happens because of, I guess, higher production values and more nerves and my ability to automate things, is I don't ramble as much, which is good because that way everybody can go have a good night. But I notice we are quickly blazing through my list. I've got 2 more on my list. Well, really it's one thing, but I split it into 2 because I thought it made sense to break it into 2. I want to talk about promoting your stuff. Not marketing, which I'm going to say is after publication, but getting yourself cycled up and getting yourself prepared to market, to query, to pitch, all that stuff to get you out the door to publication. The most common problem people make when it comes to, let's start with pitches first. The most common problem when it comes to pitches is that they're just not engaging. They are a series of facts devoid of emotion. You're giving me some clinical Wikipedia first paragraph. You're telling me this book has A, B, and C in it, and then walking away. Great. That's like reading the ingredients on my cereal box. It doesn't make me want to eat more rice checks just because I know it has this, this, and this in it. It doesn't help me connect to it. Remember, everything we're doing is about building that connection. So why are you just giving me fact without emotion? You have the emotion in your head. You know what it means when you say, Scott is a second-year law student. You know what that means. The reader doesn't. Your job is to convey why it matters. Take your fact, partner it with emotion. It's going to immediately elevate that pitch. Yes, you're going to have to practice it, massage it down so that you're not reading like a paragraph every time. Get it concise. Take some time. It's worth it. But all the same, that's how you solve the pitch issue. When it comes to querying, it's not that different than pitching. But now we have more space. Now we have more statements. Now it's a matter of taking more facts, putting them in some order with some kind of emotion, but adding extra detail to it because we have more room. We have fact, we have emotion, but now we also need stakes. Now we need to know about the what ifs. Now we need to know about the what could happen if the good guys don't get it. What could be the problem? What could be the challenge? What's risked here? What are my possible losses? What are my possible rewards? Understanding that in a query letter, whether we're talking about writing a romance novel where will they or won't they get back together, whether we're talking about a fantasy story about some great quest across a continent, whether we're talking about a romping space adventure where a group of misfits have to travel on a ship and get embroiled in a galactic plot. Whatever it is, stakes plus emotion plus fact equals query. And then it's just practice. And again, if you need help, get help. Get help. That's the whole point here. Look, see what it says right there? It's okay to ask for help. Followed by 2 different links you can go to get help. It's important that you ask for help. You don't have to keep making mistakes and then hoping that somebody's just like, whatever, they're making mistakes. Let's go. You can improve. You can get better. This is within your ken. You got this. It's okay to ask for help. Cool? Really, the whole idea of marketing, you need to challenge and reframe that idea so that it's not a matter of like, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, somebody please like my work. No. Nor is it that moment from like, what was it, Oliver, where it was, oh, please, can I have more like gruel in my bowl, strange man with hair? Because it's not that either. You have to move through the marketing process. The same thing you're going to do with promoting in a minute. You have to move through this pitching, querying process with the confidence, not arrogance, confidence. The confidence that you know your story so well, that you can tell it so effectively, that somebody somewhere who doesn't know what you know can all of a sudden find out more. That's the point here. That's the idea. That's the plan. And that only comes from repetition and practice. Rather than collecting your rejection letters, how about we just make different attempts? Last thing. Promoting after the fact. You've published or you've been published. 80% of marketing is now going to fall on you, or 100%, depending on if you self-published. What do we do now? Now we can't keep handing everybody the query letter. Now we can't keep pitching like we're trying to sell the book the first time, can we? Not really. No, you really can't. But what you can do instead is transform some of those materials you used to get you published into more reader accessible material. Because the big mistake people get in marketing, if they do any at all, is that they just repeat the same thing they did earlier, but now they do it to the reader. And they fundamentally misunderstand that your consumptive reader, the reader who's paying the money for the book, is not the same as, say, the publisher who is going to say yes to the book. Yeah, they're both humans, but they serve a different role, and they read to a different degree. Your publisher and your agent, pimp, are looking at your story in terms of whether or not they can sell it to other people. Your consumer is reading this story to see whether or not they'll enjoy it. So you've got to be able to code switch and speak a slightly different, slightly more casual, slightly more relaxed kind of language. It's no longer a business-to-business transaction here. Now it's a person-to-person transaction. So if you can describe your book no longer in the ideas of like, well, with the themes of found family and self-discovery, if you can instead turn that into figuring out where you belong is the most important thing. And communicate that. Because remember, again, we're just building bridges, right? We're just trying to get these ideas across so that people can understand them. In doing that, you make it possible for a reader to go, oh, I get what this book's about. Yeah, that sounds like something I want. And then they make the decision and they make the purchase. You need to know when you are connecting with a person on the basis of business and you want to sound like you know what you're talking about, and when you are connecting with them on the basis of, hey, let's have an interaction. Let's connect on this thing we both share. Let's have an experience together. Now, yes, it is worth pointing out that if you can do it well, you can accomplish both at the same time. You can have that business-professional relationship because of the strength of how well you will connect via your book. But that's not the norm, nor is that the expectation for everybody right off the jump, especially with a first book. It's something to aspire to. It's a goal down the road. It's something later. But for now, especially if you're just getting started, the best thing you can do when you kind of wrap all this stuff together is understand that in your marketing, when you're talking to the world about, hey, come buy my book, you want to do it in a way, and you're going to do this in more than one way. Don't just have the same thing and trot it out over and over. It gets tired fast. But you want to do it in a way that connects with somebody else. Now, if you're not sure who that person is or where they are or how to connect with them, you're going to probably want to ask for help, because it's okay to ask for help. But the point is, until you get more fluent in that language, until